Nick, are you ready?
Listo para poner mis pelotas en la mesa. Vamos.
We're back at Mary Pickford Film Studios, and our guest today is a father, husband, and a friend. He's a Stanford and Oxford University graduate with over 80 film and TV credits to his name on hit shows like La Brea, The Good Doctor, Resurrection Boulevard, and Narcos. In 2018, he was given an Impact Award by the National Hispanic Media Coalition. Nicholas Gonzalez, are you ready?
Listo para poner mis pelotas en la mesa. Vamos.
Yes.
And here we go. Vamos, balls on table.
I don't know if I know that guy anymore, you know? It's
I love that.
all those things
Let's
happened
go
so
into-
long ago,
let's
you
go into
know?
that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you started, what that was like before you made your professional jump into
Right.
the movie business.
I mean, I'm not going to take it back too far, but I will take it back to my childhood and say that I think me going after acting and even going into the entertainment business was born out of just being a fan, you know, like many kids during that time. My parents divorced when I was young. I was a latchkey kid, and that was my babysitter, was the screen. You know, when my brother wasn't beating the shit out of me, we were watching stuff together, and then, you know, we go and stay with dad and we're watching things we probably shouldn't have watched. You know, grew up watching Dirty Harry movies when I was, you know, from a young age and all like the cool thing. But I was a fan first, you know, so I think that I just never thought I'd be in the business. I didn't know anyone who was. I thought you had to grow up in Hollywood to be an actor. I just didn't know anything about it, nor did I see it as a possibility. Ended up going to college, started off as an econ major, very quickly found out that wasn't what I wanted to do, and ended up majoring in English. And I was a cross-country and track runner also, so I didn't have a lot of time. But I had time for an improv class my freshman year. And I had grown up watching the Oxymorons, which was this group in San Antonio, which were hilarious, a lot like Whose Line Is It Anyway? You know, theater
yeah.
sports,
Nice.
as they call it in the Bay Area. And just an improv group, you know, those annoying people, improv groups, you know. But
They're everywhere.
they're everywhere here. But they were incredible. And I had an opportunity to take a class and do improv, and it was honestly just for fun. And once I stopped running after my sophomore year, they won the NCAAs the next year. But yeah, once I
Did
stopped
they
running,
thank you for quitting the
yeah,
team and
I
then
think I was
winning?
holding them back. I'm pretty sure of that. But I was able to live. I was able to go abroad and study. As you said, you know, I was at Oxford for a while. I was a voracious reader. I was into, but I think it was more about life and life experiences and reading about all these different portrayals of it, right? Whether it was Sun Also Rises, or whether it was, you know, if you're lucky enough to have lived in Paris as a young man, then wherever you go for the rest of your life, it stays with you. For Paris, it is a movable feast. That's the book,
yes.
A Movable Feast. And just thinking about all these intellectuals at the time all together,
Where they have you reading like
competing and writing
Joyce
at the
and
same time. Joyce
Dumas-
was why I
Dumas
went.
Poissant and all these guys, Henry
That's
James.
when I was I started really getting into the modernists, and Joyce was actually what I went over to do Wild, and that got me into Joyce because of a certain biography written by Richard Ellman. Then got me into Joyce, which got me into the thick of it really, and then I went back on a research grant and was doing my thesis on Ulysses, and but just, you know, again, another fan, a fan of literature, of reading, of life, you know. And then as you start to, as things started to happen I started doing theater, took acting classes because the improv exercises were part of the course curriculum, but you couldn't take improv again, you know, once you took it once. So I took these acting class, and because of that, I was approached to do a play by a graduate student because I was the only Latino male in the program, and that's what she needed for her piece. And I was called out of class one day, and she said, "Would you read this?" I read it out loud to her, and she's like, "Would you like to do it?" And everything in my body says, "Oh, you know, no, I'm not an actor. I don't, that's not what I do. I don't." And for some reason I said yes. And I think there's a lot of points in my life where that's been the case, you know, where I kind of just took that other path, and I don't exactly understand why, because everything inside me was kind of saying no. And also, you know, very well, being an actor, that once you agree to a theater, then all the weight comes down on you, because then, you know, the rehearsals and everything else, and then the imminent opening that you're never going to be ready for or feel like you are. All that came in instantly, you know. But this was my first time, and there was another actress who was getting her doctorate, Latina, named Alma Martinez, and she happened to see the first performance, came to my dressing room afterwards, and was like, "We need more young Latinos like you." And she held my hand and it took me around, introduced me to everybody in the theater scene in San Francisco. So I just started doing everything from queer plays to Tartuffe to, and a lot of staged readings, not even full-fledged productions, just anything I get my hands on and working workshops with people. And, fast forward to I graduated early like an idiot. I would love to go back and sit through a 7 a.m. lecture, but I couldn't wait to get away from Stanford at the time and graduated winter, drove straight down here. Had never really been to LA except when I'd been to Disneyland as a kid, and only driven through. Moved to the beach, was living on Venice Beach. And it literally, the rest is history. Like it just the little
And the
things
rest
that happened.
is still unfolding. Were your parents supportive?
You know
of
what?
that?
From the beginning, I have to give them credit. My mother, I remember the day, and we were at my graduation, and I told her that I said, I think I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to do this. And she just got a little misty-eyed, and she said, you've always done everything you've put your mind to. Why shouldn't this be any different?
Wow.
Great.
And when someone endows you, I know now as a dad how powerful that is, no matter the age of your kid.
Mm-hmm.
But when you endow them with things, or you tell them about how powerful they are, about how strong they are, or
Yeah.
about, you know what you do well, you get through hardships, those kind of things. And I think I'm just realizing in this moment that I was duped by my mom, because she
Let's
she
call
said
her.
that, and I didn't question. I was thinking about it on the ride here. I was like, how audacious were we to come here to this
Yeah.
town that is full of, like, it reminds me of when I went to Stanford, that I met everybody in my freshman class, and I was like, Jesus Christ, these people are incredible.
Yeah.
And not only were they, already had finished a lot of college classes in high school, had taken every AP, and gotten top, and, had also, like, beaten the 4-minute mile mark in high school, these guys, right? These were the people I was then thrust in with. And then we do it right over again by moving to LA, right? This is the majors.
It
we
takes a
forget
certain
that.
kind of person.
You were talking
and it
about
takes a
that.
certain kind of crazy. You have to have a degree of crazy to move here.
Mhm.
And I think that we all have that, and we're all sort of, a lot of people are orphans. We call ourselves orphans. I went to Berklee College of Music, and before that I went
Never
to
heard
North.
of it.
No, never.
Mm.
Well, I say Berklee College of Music because Berkeley, they get confused.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Berklee College of Music is fucking
And
impressive
same
as hell.
thing. And I went to University of North Texas and the New England Conservatory, and you get there, and I was the best musician in my high school. And when I got there and I realized I'm the shittiest one here, everyone can smoke me. Those moments are like they're incredibly humbling. And my parents were also super supportive. But kind of going back to your mom and your dad, was your dad like a role model for you as a dad?
In many ways, yes. I mean,
Mm.
here's the thing is, not until I looked back at it as an adult, I felt like, I had a great childhood. I felt like I had a brother who was, besides beating the shit out of me all the time, he was also the guy who went to a school before I did, made all the friends, and he was the coolest guy, so everybody loved him. So when I got there, it was teed up. It was like, oh, you're JJ's brother. So,
Talking high school or Stanford?
all along the way, Stanford, he was there before me.
Oh,
High school,
okay.
he was there before me. Middle
oh
school.
wow, what a great buffer.
And he was just that incredible of a guy, and still is. I mean, people love him. He's just very personable and funny, smart, all the package. Looking back, like, my parents divorced when I was 4. My dad was in the military. He
Mhm.
was stationed in Fort Benning, Georgia, while we were in San Antonio. I would spend a month with him during the summer. He was there. Usually he came home for holidays, But when I look back, I guess he wasn't there, right?
Right.
But I always thought, and I had
But
this
he
role
was there
model.
enough for that you at the time felt safe in some way.
It's arguable, because here's the thing is, I was on my own a lot.
Mhm.
And I look back at, granted it was our generation, it was different. We all know the stories of being out till, street lights come on, and your parents sometimes didn't know where you were, but that's what we did.
Did
We
you
played
have
outside
did you
all
have that
day.
in Boston? Because we were Midwest guys, and yeah, that was like when the streetlights are on. Are you back on your bikes? Are you back home? Did you have that in Boston?
As far as
Like just the latchkey kid rules of like
Like,
when
you
to
were
be
outside
home if
all
you're
day.
outside.
oh,
like
my
we were
parents were so
gone.
strict. My dad's military as
Oh,
well, like ex, it was in the Air Force. So like it was very, they were super controlling. So I didn't have
that freedom.
I had more boundaries than most of my friends.
Okay.
For better or worse. And then when I went off to college, my younger brother, my parents called me. They were like, "We don't know what to do with your brother. He's going crazy. He doesn't come home." And I'm like, "You knew what to do with me? What the fuck?
Yeah.
This is
I
crazy."
don't know,
I
ground
remember
him?
it's just like, "What the fuck? He's getting away with everything." And they just kind of like let go.
You're like, I'm at college. I got out.
So did you and do you or have ever carried resentment for not having your dad around as much?
You know, when I look back, I think about the kid that didn't have maybe as many boundaries as I could have. Although my parents they were good parents. They just didn't know. Like I was
Mhm.
doing stuff, or I was staying the night with a friend and then we'd be out till all hours, like so we just did a lot back then, I
Yeah.
mean, we were smoking weed by 7th grade and drinking Mickey's Big Mouths in the ditch, and finding
Nice.
Marlboro
The
Reds,
gullies. Yep.
Oh.
Smoking
in
Reds.
5th grade. So
Yeah,
it's like it was a
wow.
different time.
Right.
And I still was the kid who got home on Sunday and did my homework. Different things happen at different points in my life that opened that up to me. I mean, my dad definitely opened the world to us a bit because, we traveled with him. Scuba diving we got into because of him. Long
Okay.
distance running I get into because of him. Soccer, which was my other sport, was because of him. And cycling, which we did.
Mm.
So he was that guy that got us involved in a lot of different things. We saw a lot of world through him. But then also I had a girlfriend my freshman year in college who was just this amazing girl who didn't really get along with a lot of people at her high school, or was like, the kind of girl that's way more mature in her years than everybody she was surrounded by. And I think like she shaved her head, and her and her best girlfriend went to the prom together and then took off the next day traveling around. She backpacked around Europe by herself at the age of 18.
Wow.
And she was one that told me about her travels and everything she had done.
Mm.
And that kind of really got me thinking, well, I could do this, because I wasn't the guy who was just going to hop on a plane and go over there and do it. And I did. But, you're worried. This is in the early days of the internet. I had an email address just because I was at Stanford, but this is 1994, 95,
Mm.
So you still had to research things like crazy. You had to
Yeah.
write ahead and,
Go to the library.
fax to reserve your hotel.
Mm.
That also kind of really lit a fire under me. My brother had traveled a lot too, though, and when he was at Stanford, he took advantage of that and studied abroad, and that got me thinking, oh, I can do this too, But my parents, there was definitely made it possible. My dad helped me out in those early years too, and even though my dad's a physician, my brother's a physician. My brother, I think, really followed in my dad's footsteps. And while I have a lot of affinity for the medical field, and it's one of my favorite things to play, maybe for that reason, I didn't, follow in those. And I wonder if, I think sometimes that's hard for my brother too, because I don't know if he was following necessarily what he wanted, or what he thought
he wanted.
or what he thought they wanted
Yeah.
him to do.
Was there an expectation that
Question,
you
good
would go
point.
into the medical field?
I don't know, because to be honest, there wasn't an expectation with much of anything. And I say that in the way that my brother and I never felt like they didn't push school on us, right? We just did well at it,
That's
and we liked it.
interesting because
They
I
did-
feel like that's not common. Like
They wouldn't know like what schools I even applied to if I told you, but they knew. Like, I mean, I decided between West Point and Stanford, right? Two totally different worlds. But like,
You decided? Did you get into both?
I did. I got a
Oh
presidential
my-
appointment, and my dad
wow.
graduated from there in '68.
No.
Your dad went to
And
West
my
Point?
brother got an appointment there too and didn't go.
Wow.
Your dad did.
He
wow.
did,
That is
yeah.
so
Our grandfather went
because
to
that's
West Point.
super rare. I don't think I've ever met anyone who is accepted.
To West Point?
No, that is like
My grandfather said, I wanted to apply, and I remember he said, don't.
Well,
Okay.
and I'll tell you what, when the day that I turned it down, my dad said, I'm really glad you didn't go. And he said, our military is just very different than, and the wars are very different than what I fought. He's a Vietnam vet. And he said, because I would have been out in the desert and not the LA
Right.
desert,
Yeah.
leading a bunch of young men. And don't know if I'd, be here
Yeah,
right now.
we might not be talking to you.
No, definitely wouldn't be an actor.
Well, so no offense to West Point, but you went left.
For me, I made the right choice. I made the right choice, but I think about it a lot. And I think that's also why I love playing, law enforcement and military so much too. It's because I get to
What a
kind of
great thing you
cosplay
get
these
to
lives that I
do.
didn't choose.
Yeah.
It's a pretty cool
Yeah.
job.
I think a lot of people talk about that moment where there's this kind of transubstantiation of the body, right? Like,
Whoa.
it's happening again for the first time. If that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The same way we talk about the transubstantiation of the body with the
Right,
Eucharist.
right.
But meaning that sometimes, and it happened to me the first time when I was on that play, at Stanford, where the character and I just felt like I was there. I was in this moment. I was feeling it, and the words that were coming out of my mouth were so fiercely believed and held, and it
Yeah.
just kind of those moments blur, and you're there, you're feeling it, and I feel like it's that perfect golf shot, that perfect, you know, backhand that you crave it and what brings you back to the game. And so that's not always like that for me, right? I don't always have the best experiences. I don't always work with the best people, or, or I don't prepare as well as I could. And so there's so many different experiences, but at its best,
Mm,
when it smacks of art,
mm, mm.
when we're very fortunate, that's what it feels like. My philosophy towards things is, life's too short to, A, not work with people that you love and that you build a family with for no matter how short the time is. And then, B, to give it your all, to
Mm.
actually put into it. So for me, it's getting back to what does it really feel like? What's the real experience and the truth of it, rather than like, because sometimes I'll find myself in an experience and I'm like, oh, wow, I had to act that before. And that's nothing like what I was acting like or feeling
You
inside. And I'm like, this is what it really feels like.
That's
Wow.
right. That's right.
And trying to remember that. And we don't always do explainable things.
That's the job as artists. That's so true. Focusing mostly in these last several years on writing and being grateful to eke out a living at it. It's writing, it's acting, it's music. It's like the job is to make the person feel. And if
Right.
you've done that, however you've gotten there, you've done your job.
And that's how I felt when I didn't even realize what I wanted to do. When you ask about a young age, or did you want to do this? I didn't know. I mean, if you ask me, I was a class clown. I loved to perform, but I was never in drama.
Right.
I thought that was like musicals, and which I love now. But at the time I was like,
Oh, I
Spectre
can't
General.
stomach them, man. I mean, I appreciate them,
Oh,
but
me
I
too.
I
well,
I
once
struggle.
you're singing "Defying Gravity" with my daughter in the car,
Okay, she'll change my mind.
and I'm like performing it. Yeah, yeah. Forget her. I'm talking about me.
Yeah. That's a perfect segue into
Yeah.
trying to talk to men our age, older, younger, about like, what are you guys feeling? What do you want?
Oh,
What's
man.
going on?
I'm the one totally like I go back home and everybody in San Antonio, everybody's, football and fantasy leagues and betting on all the different teams. So it doesn't even matter about your teams now, right? It's just
Right.
certain games are more, it's all stats. And I'm just the guy there like, hey, so how's it going with the baby? I know you got a 2-year-old. That must be tough. And how's it going with the wife, And,
Yeah.
and
Short answers, fine, good.
Right.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
That's my
Yeah.
brother. But, I find also like my young cousin, he wants to talk about it. And guys around don't, really talk to him. So anytime I kind of come around, he's kind of,
Oh, he's jazzed.
or taking in things in a different way. And it's nice to be able to like impart a bit of wisdom. And, I've been through it. I'm still going through it. But it is funny because those are the relationships I want. I'm tired of just the one way and they're just like, yeah, how you doing? Great. How are you? Great. And that's it. And we go play golf for 6 hours and I don't know anything else about you.
Well,
know?
that's like having birthday parties with parents coming over that you don't know. Like I just did this with my son, and we kind of tried to make it clear. It's like a drop and go, and my son's just turned 7, and that's still a little bit young, but
It
they're
is.
kind of doing the drop and go. And there were parents that came over that did not leave, and
They did not want to go. They just wanted to stay.
we're my partner and I are separated, but we still share the house. We're doing this like nesting thing. And I remember we were just laughing together in the kitchen. They're like, they won't go away. And I don't want to do small talk. And the parents that I did know that I did want to talk to were the ones that dropped and left. And the
Right.
parents that I
Right.
didn't know stuck around. I'm like,
Small talk is draining. It's like, if we're going to talk,
it's
let's
hard
talk.
work,
Let's talk.
man.
Let's
It's
have a
hard
real
work.
conversation.
Yeah, and I find myself going to those places a little quicker too.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what I'm looking for, but because I'm in it enough to know that I'm not trying to be like anyone else's world. But I guess when we find simpatico with another person, it makes our troubles or the challenges a little bit more palatable because we get to hear. I mean, like your situation and nesting and all that's fascinating, and it's so hard for a lot of people to
I
understand.
can't
I'm
wait
sure.
for it to be over. Just got to sell that house, and she doesn't. She's dragging her feet. Like, I don't know if it's on purpose. Gee, I wonder.
I wonder. Yeah, nobody's
shit.
foot stuck.
Turns out it's really hard to parent on your own.
The nesting thing is fascinating because you think about, oh, this could work. This is going to be good for the kids, right? Everything I've done. We moved to Australia 5 years ago at the beginning of COVID because we were just like, okay, my ex-wife, my partner at the time, she's from Melbourne. So we were like, and her parents were there. We wanted to be close to family.
Right.
We didn't know anything
Yeah,
about.
COVID, it was non-existent
We-
there after you had the 2-week.
Yeah, we had just
Quarantine,
bought a
quarantine.
house in Joshua Tree, and I was building an epic recording studio. And I got halfway through, and we were like, let's just go. And we turned it into an Airbnb and whatever. But like, that was all for the kids. Everything I do, everything, they are my world, right?
And for people to understand, like, this makes sense, right? Because my nightmare is, if I had to get divorced or decide to get divorced, is not being there with my kids all the time.
Right.
Well,
So I
as
get
somebody
that.
who went through that, but not a divorce, but not having
That
their
is-
kid all the time,
that
it's
is
a
the
hard
har-
adjust moves. But like the nesting thing, when people separated, like my parents were like,
Oh,
fuck you back. And it was
Oh
like,
my God.
somebody's
This
leaving.
was
There
an-
was no,
this
I don't
was
know
an
who came up with
unknown
nesting.
concept.
And
They're
it
like,
happened that immediately, and
Yeah.
the clothes were thrown out in
oh
the front
man,
yard.
yeah.
you
Like
know?
we came home and like, why is everybody shit in the driveway? Grandma, why are you here?
Yeah,
Like,
Grandma, where are you?
Totally.
No,
Oh my
yeah.
God, yeah.
But cut to, we're gonna nest. It's kind of good luck, everybody.
And-
out there
and
who wants
weirdos
to
out here
nest.
in
and it's
California.
interesting because I've talked to I've talked to my lawyer who had gone through it, and she was like, it doesn't work. And then I talked to my therapist, and she's like, it can work. And it's kind of 50-50 of like, does it work? Can it work? For me, it's not working. It's not ideal.
You're pushing through, and I have a lot of respect for you for doing that and empathy. But it comes down to what works for both people, so
Yeah.
both people can parent the way that they need to for the kids. And
That's
if it's
it.
not working for
Yeah.
one, it's
We are
ultimately not going to work
co-parenting
for
as
both.
well, and we talk all the time. And,
Nick,
and-
you did La Brea down in
Yeah.
Australia
Hmm.
for a couple seasons.
3 seasons.
3
yeah, yeah.
seasons. What was so you moved the kids down there? That's exciting. Take the wife.
Well, the tough part was being there because they kind of went through their whole COVID thing almost a year later. I mean, because I went over and I had to wait 2 weeks in quarantine and could only go by myself. I
Same.
couldn't take my family.
Yeah.
So for
Yeah.
5.5 months, I was away from my then 3.5-year-old and my pregnant wife
Wow.
for 5.5 months, which I still can't believe I did. And
and you
spent that
hey,
2 week in
and
the
you guys
hotel.
you guys made it through that, which is a testament to that's tough.
And once I got out of quarantine, the whole country went into lockdown 5 days later. So then I was an essential worker and I couldn't travel, but I
Mhm.
could work like crazy. And we worked. It was a tough first season.
What was that
Mm.
reunion like?
Tear-filled.
Yeah.
The departure was, I mean,
Oh,
I felt
same.
like I just
Yeah.
couldn't believe, like, why am I doing this? Why am I
Yeah.
doing this? In what place
Well,
does this
you're-
make sense to lose 5.5 months of my child's life?
Did you
But
know it was going to be 5.5 months up front?
we knew going
Okay.
in, but I also was told that I was going to be able to bring them. But I'm glad I didn't, because then when the country went into lockdown, they would been just stuck in the house
Right.
Did your
again,
partner
like we had
say-
already had when we were in Canada.
Did your wife ever go, no, I don't want you to do that? Was there
No,
was
because
there-
this was right after COVID, and
Okay.
this was a series that I had passed on prior to, but then they came back with a different role,
Oh.
and post-COVID was like, well, nobody knew when they were going to work again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
me signing on to this was huge, and it was like taking one for the team, and it was like, holy shit, we got this, great. Oh no, we got to move to Melbourne now, and
I love
me-
that you
me
say
going-
Melbourne.
Melbourne, that's the way you say it. Melbourne.
Versus, would you Melbourne, Australia?
Yeah, like my
Melbourne?
parents.
Yeah. like-
Um,
We're going to Bali.
So then when they were finally able to come, it was great. But my son was like 3.5 months when we went over. So, and he had like
Yeah.
sleeping issues at the time.
Oh
So
my
it was tough on my wife, because I would be gone all day shooting, and she was in another country far away. My daughter, who was a little too young, they still took her in the kindergarten. So she was like with older kids, and it was amazing. We were there on our second day, she was already in school.
That's cool. She's going to be your
and-
daughter when she's older. She's going to be like that girl that you
Yeah.
had, the girlfriend in Stanford that was
Right,
way
she's
mature.
that girl. Yeah, she
more
did
mature
it
than
in
everyone
Canada.
else.
She knows the
Right.
kids are resilient. She
Yeah.
she went to school there. Went to school here, and she was the one American. Everybody, she was the one who talked funny, and but it was a magical time, and we really enjoyed it. And then the third season was back and forth to Gold Coast.
What are you looking forward to right now as a dad? Is it work? Is it leveling up with like watching your kids go? Because my daughter's older than your kids, and I know what's coming for both of you, and how fast it goes.
I think you hit the nail on the head. We're at a very interesting time in the sense that when my daughter was young, she was COVID, and I had all that time with her.
Mm.
Plus we were also able to all live together up in Vancouver while I was doing The Good Doctor.
Mhm.
But I had all that time with her. And now this, like, with the strike and everything that's been going on with our industry being decimated, I'm getting this secondary kind of, pandemic home time with my son at the
That's
very same
fantastic at the
age.
same age.
Yeah.
Very formative years. So I gotta say it's funny because I
You're
think
getting
my
what you
wife,
didn't get, which is amazing. Your kids are getting, and you're getting it through them
right,
now, what you didn't get from your
right.
dad.
And I think that my wife is the one that's feeling the strain of like, gosh, I want to get out there. I want to make money. I want to make money. Um, because she's had the kids and has set some stuff aside to do that and is now like rightly wanting to, jump back out there, but also feeling the strain with the way everything's going. And I gotta say, I'm pretty optimistic I don't think this business is done with me.
No.
I don't feel it going, from like 2 shows back to back. It feels very relevant, but everything is restructuring and changing. But I am really enjoying this time. I have to say, I don't feel a huge fire underneath me to move from it, and I'm just really enjoying the time. I'm staying very optimistic, just with the kids, which is hard sometimes when it's like, Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
same day, the process. If
Yeah.
you're doing it right,
Yeah.
they love that
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah.
I have to
They
say,
love those
'cause it was,
boundaries,
but
and
I
that,
have to say, it was so funny. I was on a call with Nick saying, "Hey, you want to come on the show?" And he was like, he had to go in the bathroom to talk to me, and he's like, "Bathroom. I'm in the bathroom.
don't come in.
Don't come in." And
Don't
all I'm sitting there laughing. He's like, "Bathroom. I'm in the bath."
Yeah. Nick,
He's like, I'll call you. He's like, "I'll call you back."
it feels
I'll
like
call you back.
it feels like Money
It's like
Pit where
the
Tom
only-
Hanks is
this
stuck
the
in
only
there.
place I can go to like fucking
Bathroom.
get some refuge.
And it was great. He's like, "I'll call you back," and it was like, it's gonna be like 10 or 20 minutes. And it was like 20 minutes.
I never
later.
called back.
But so,
But
you said
I'm enjoying this time, man.
Good.
I'm just I'm loving being with them. I feel like the best is still yet to come, but it's also because I have a very capable partner. That one thing I was adamant about that I knew I always wanted, was somebody dynamic and somebody that was going to be able to handle shit that I wasn't always going to have all the
Amazing.
answers
That's what I
for.
want to ask you about.
And that's hard because
Can we
that's
say your wife's name on or
Yeah,
are we
yeah,
keeping
you
her
can.
secret? Kelsey. But and absolutely, that's something worth chasing to young men out there or young ladies who like ladies. Chase a dynamic partner.
It's going to challenge you is the
Yeah.
tough part, right? You are going to be challenged.
Don't be
It is going to
intimidated
be
by it.
hard. You are going to have to get over a shit ton of, your own shit.
Do the work.
The work, as
Yeah,
they say, deal
yeah.
with a lot of shit. But ultimately, I think you're kind of, we look for people that we're kind of still set to learn stuff through. I
Agreed.
don't believe in depending on your spouse.
No, and that's
you
what I
know.
want
You
to
should
ask
always
because
be
she's come to
making
you now
yourself
like
better.
she's looking not I don't want to say looking for that independence because I know your wife and I know what you're talking about as far as her personality, but ready to be like, I want to get out in the world. I want to do this. And you having
I
that,
followed you to Canada. I followed you
exactly.
to Australia,
And you're
I
like,
was happy to.
and you're like, now it's
But-
your turn. Go with
But
God.
she's like, I've got something right now.
Yeah.
And
how is that? How is that for both of you? Is that
It's a great time. It's weird that again it's during a time that we can afford to set aside this time because it's being forced on us. So I'm not away doing, another project. I can be there for her and she can write. And that's what's really hitting her where she goes through bouts where she has to. It's like she has to get this out, It's like the muse is working through you, right?
Mm.
And I'm all for it because the product is incredible.
right?
Like she just turned in her first book.
It's
her
amazing.
scripts, I mean, everything. I'm just kind of like, how did you think of this? Like I knew this part. I just didn't expect you to do it this way. And I'm genuinely just kind of like we're asleep at night. I'm like,
and she's
It's
like, you
incredible.
wanted someone dynamic.
yeah, you wanted this.
Was
wanted this.
there an element of whiplash because it's just gone? It kind of.
There can be a bit of an ego thing. And I think,
Mm.
look, like guys need to realize there's a bit of an ick that comes with many things that we do. But one of them being like when you're not performing to the top of your ability, right? It's going to, whether it's self-imposed or whether they start looking at us a little differently, like, you're not kind of doing all the things you could. And feeling that from them, that's something I think grapple with a little bit because I mean, I could get another job, but I also, the way I make money with what I do, I can weather, slow times and that's part of it, and that's okay for me. But, with a relationship,
You can also go back to poker, little drop in. I think, Nick, didn't you finish first or second in like world champion
WPT. Yeah.
poker tour?
Oh, no
yeah, a long time
way.
ago.
I was crazy about poker
You've
for a
got,
long time.
I remember,
Oh.
I totally remember that.
But there was a whole like celebrity poker thing that
I
made
love
it
poker.
easy.
You drink. You're not sober, right? Do you drink
I
alcohol?
drink. Yeah, I drink.
Yeah, we like to drink. And something Tony and I talk about that I know you'll appreciate, and I want to get your thoughts on it, is you're aware of the 3 pillars, right? Spirituality,
Right.
Career, romance, relationship. Yeah. So Tony and I, when I saw him in Melbourne recently, we went on a Negroni tour, which is his favorite cocktail. And we were talking about, oh yeah, that's like the perfect 3 parts: gin, sweet vermouth, Campari, and you put them together. And what happens when they come together? It's great. If it's done right, it's fucking great. If something's missing, it's drinkable. And if 2 of the things are missing, it's like something's wrong. And guys looking at you, friend looking at you, you've got the career, you've got the romance, the family, and then your spirituality component. What's that like?
That for me has always been a bit of a searching. I grew up Catholic, but didn't get confirmed. My brother did. So you can get married in the church, but to me,
Did you get baptized?
I did get baptized because I didn't have a say in that. It's tiny.
Water on the baby.
Yeah, but my children aren't baptized.
Right.
But I grew up Catholic. It's not something I really share a lot with the kids. I mean, the opportunity doesn't really come up, but they do have a little plastic Jesus in their room. They watch, and they're like, "Who's that?" "That's Jesus." "What does he do?" "He watches us."
Questions, how do you lie to your
I
kids?
saw this meme recently where they like what kids learn at school and the way they tell you. They're like, "We learned about Marek Luther King Jr. and then what did he do? He died for our sins," which couldn't be more
Right.
on point,
Totally.
actually. But the funny thing is the way kids, talk about things, and they don't grow up with all the stories and the catechism like I grew up with. So to them, it is more. It's fascinating. I mean, we teach them about Jewish culture as well because my wife's not biological father, but the one who raised her is Jewish, and his family survived the Holocaust, and so
Wow.
it's something that's very strong with them. And we teach the kids about different religions, but and as for me, it's more of a communal thing in some ways. It's a self-searching. And I don't know if it's right. I don't know if at some point I'm going to realize, yep, I need that higher power. I need that. But I do realize there are things stronger and more powerful than me. And I do believe that there's kind of an energy that's not really either taken or given from, but is constantly replenished and comes in different ways. And I feel like we kind of all bouncing off each other in that way too. And I'm just try to stay more open to things like that and opportunities to talk and commune. So it's just more about trying to be present for people in your life. And, I believe in miracles. I believe when you come together and shift energy.
The next time Tony and I do a Negroni tour, you come along with us and we'll find that third pillar of spirituality.
This episode was shot on Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Pro cameras. So if it looks better than it probably should, now you know why. If you're a filmmaker, content creator, or podcaster who cares about cinematic quality, Blackmagic is the real deal. Do you have any dinner table rituals? Or anything cool that you like that this is a special thing we do every night?
No, some of the normal stuff is the stuff that's the sweetest to me is like every Tuesday we do like a home state family dinner. We go, we'll go and have margaritas and the kids will run around and eat. We invite their friends and other kids from school to come too. But I still kind of am longing for that more. The experience we had where we all sat down to dinner because my wife and I kind of stand in the kitchen and kind of eat in front of the kids and talk to them about their day and.
Right. So do you eat separately? Like sometimes I remember when the kids are at a certain age, they just ate earlier and then we put them to bed and then we would eat.
We used to do that.
Okay.
And now we just kind of all eat earlier because it just seems to feel better.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting to hear. As a single dad, dinner, I like to cook. Dinner is a very specific thing for my daughter Charlie and I. When I have her, when she's not with her mom, the rule is like we'll order in one night, we'll go out one night during the week, but like the rest of the night I'm cooking, and you're in here at the kitchen or at the dining table, and you can do homework there, or you're in proximity and we're having a dialogue while the prep is happening, and we always sit down.
That's my favorite stuff.
Unless
when women
there's
involved.
like, there's a game on or there's a show where she's just bombarded with homework. Well, I'm always like, let's go. So
Yeah.
we sit down. It's cute. It's still like that one ritual that we share before she's, deeper into her teenage years,
Yeah.
and she's like, fuck you, get me an Uber.
And see, that's the other thing too, is like, I realize these times are fleeting. My
Yeah.
boys, that's our last. We're not having another kid, and I'm just really
Will you
enjoying
snip,
these.
or will
little
you just leave it alone?
Yeah, I never leave it alone, my friend.
No.
But snipped as well.
Oh, that's a great answer.
Hasn't
Yes.
changed a thing for me.
He's going out the way he came in.
Yeah. But it's just so magical. I think just these little things. He says blueberries
Oh, yeah.
and pancakes
Oh, yeah.
and pack. And I'm not in a rush for any of it to change.
Oh, I didn't change it so
Don't be.
fast.
And I think that I've just always felt like that in life. Like, what's the next date? What's next? What's this? And strangely, I find myself at a real calm. And maybe it's at the expense of my wife. I don't know. Because she's now like taking on this.
You
wanting to work
guys have kind of reversed.
I don't know,
you've
'cause
got
she's never
less
been
stress
relaxed.
and she's more like anxious about stuff.
She's
now?
never been relaxed. She's always been anxious. So I feel like I'm in a good place, and I feel like I'm in love with my wife, which feels great. And I didn't anticipate,
That's
because
fantastic.
I was always afraid of what it was going to be like. Am I going to be able to sustain a love for one woman? And I'd just been single for so long. I didn't get married until I was 40. Had my first kid at 41. So I had lived in LA since I was 22. Okay, and LA caters to men remaining boys. As long as you want, you can be up in the club, doing whatever.
Peter
And
Panning.
so
Peter Panning
true.
it is long.
And
Which is like, don't do that, guys out there.
And I'm
Yeah.
so glad I didn't, fall into and I'm so thankful that literally my wife had to kind of pull me aside at one point, was like, look, what do you want? What are the, you say these are all the things you want in your life. Well, when?
Your dad was married 4 times?
Yeah.
Same with mine. My dad was a sex addict and had other closeted sexual stuff behind him, but I think that's synonymous for that generation in a lot of ways. And you're just going to keep, that's the best example.
that was
you just
also-
keep doing the same thing, repeating that pattern without figuring it out in between.
And that was also the value, though, too.
Yeah.
It was like, how many girls you've been with? Or all this kind of like, or I got a girl in this city, or and my dad would tell me about like, so-and-so in this town, or, and I didn't think anything of it.
What was that thing you were talking about the other day about college kids? JQ, our producer, and you were talking about the not the list, but
Body count?
body count. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Body count. And like
Just
these
like
kids
the-
having like the opposite of
Like
your
late
dad and my
20s,
dad.
and they've only slept with 3 people.
Oh, yeah. No one's having sex anymore, which is crazy to
Well,
me.
Yeah.
That's because I'm out of the game, man. I mean, I'm retired. No one's doing it. They're like, well,
They can't
The goats
find you, and they're
left.
like, we've been looking for him.
I'm not
Is he
even
still-
having it
Is
anymore.
he still in Australia? Speaking of, okay, that's a later question, but I'll throw it now. 5-minute quickie or an all-night marathon?
I was going to ask that too.
All night marathon.
Yeah,
Yes.
All night
right.
marathon.
Heck yeah.
I want to luxuriate. I'm like, I want intimacy. I want closeness. I want, I'm not space away and just kind of.
The father-son thing is so
Mm.
immersed in us. Like, how much did you take on? What did you absorb from dad? What did
Everything, I think I romanticized it all. The
Mm.
idea of having another woman, a different woman in each port. I know I definitely took a lot of those addictive tendencies.
Mm.
And that's what's probably been my struggle with it. And that's why I said I'm just so pleasantly surprised to be so in love with my wife after all this time. We've been married for 9 years, together 13.
Wow. What's the
And,
secret to that? Like, I find like
All-night marathon.
I think,
All-night
yeah,
marathon.
I feel like in almost every relationship I've been in, I somehow lose interest. How do you keep it like hot?
I think
and
she
like,
just doesn't give it to me all the time, so I'm constantly
Ah.
like,
well,
Darn it.
and an interesting thing, like I remember the point where we had to talk about scheduling sex. Like we had to, and that is like, that's a very difficult thing for me to like I'm in it, I'm ready, or I'm like, it's like that.
We had a guest on recently
Yeah.
who's like who's got a son around your son's age or your daughter's age. It's like spontaneous or scheduling. He was like, scheduling.
I can go from like, oh, good, irritated to like, I want to jump your bones. Like that doesn't change for me, which I know is the opposite for her. And most women are like, if you're giving the ick with something you did or
Mhm.
how you're being, they're like,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
and that's kind of tough for me
And
to
do you have to
understand.
talk? Do you have to like talk about that and how that functions in your relationship in order to understand each
Even
other
just
better?
talking
And
in general
yeah,
too, like you have to do, right? And I'm still the guy that I know better,
yeah,
and I'll shut down when I'm
Oh,
hearing
interesting.
things being
right.
told about like what I'm not doing right or
Yep.
what could be better. I'm just sitting there like
Mm.
not even giving her the decency of eye contact or going, okay, I hear you, and I'll get around to later of going,
Do
okay,
you
I heard
know
what
you're
you
do
said.
you find you're
Yes,
doing that intentionally
and
to
it's
kind of
still
piss her
hard to
off?
kind of not even for her. I'm just literally going like in my head is like, hello, darkness, my old
Is
friend.
it
Like, how
is
did
it
I get here?
Right.
is it a
Why am I doing this?
strategy or is it
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
It's not a good
Well,
one if it
yeah,
is.
right.
Anger. Are
Mm.
you slow and simmering to it like a volcano, or is it fast like a lightning bolt?
It's scary to me how fast it can still be. And you can feel completely like I'm Mr. Zen and I've reached a certain place and I have so much patience with people. And then
And
one
then
thing can happen and I'm like, what is dickhead?
it's a common thing we've heard from a lot of guests and from friends who are going to be on the show. Just like, I don't know how we're built in that way. Women have it too. They can go white rage,
Right.
but you can kind of get ready to get like, I'm going to lace up and I'm going to get ready because I know it's coming.
Well, I
And
just
with
get this
us,
constriction right here. And it's like,
Mm.
and you feel like you have to say when it's really somebody else's shit a lot of times, but like, and what does it really matter? More often than not, getting into it with someone. So I feel like I understand it better and I feel like I put space, but it's scary how much I let myself be drawn in quickly to something.
who initiates most of the conversations that when it's like, we got to talk about this? Is it
It's
Kelsey or you?
It's usually Kelsey. She's sometimes not always the best at hearing the things. She gets really down on herself.
Mm.
So I sometimes, I'm still trying to get right. So like, I'm not trying to upset the apple cart. I want her to be happy, right? But that isn't really the smartest thing to do. And this bullshit I think that we as men tell ourselves of happy wife, happy life. Well, I just stay out of that. Well, that's above my pay grade.
I'm so glad
It's
you
so
mentioned that.
shirking of duties. It's so like
I
it's
know.
only gonna continue this feeling that your wife has of feeling that, or your partner of the buck stops with me. I'm responsible for everything. I don't have a partner who's doing that. I have a partner who, like, if I tell him do this, do that, that's great. Like, I do everything you ask. Well, I shouldn't have
Right.
to ask you to do all this shit.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to not feel the burden completely on me
Right.
by someone else that not only says, "Hey, how can I take some stuff off your plate?" That's the beginning. But
Mhm.
then you become the person who's the first, at bat, the person who is then taking on these responsibilities rather than just trying to help your wife and alleviate them.
Right.
And that has made a lot of the difference.
Right.
I think that's one of the big. But she's the initiator a lot of times, and I have to kind of bite the bullet and say, "Hey, I'm not getting what I need here, or I'm not happy in this instance, even though it's risking ruining the night."
Will you guys go to bed angry, or do you try to squash it before going to bed so that it doesn't carry into the next
Well,
day?
we were adamant about never going to bed angry, but we've done it since. I mean, we
Mhm.
definitely have done
Yeah.
it and known while you're doing it and going like, "Oh, I'm doing it right now," and it feels stupid, but we can't let it, stay for
But you're both
long.
aware, which is awesome. It's
Yeah.
great. It's
And
like, all right,
more
we're gonna
often
have to
than not,
figure
it's
this out.
usually me finally
the
getting
couch.
over it.
Yeah.
Me finally getting over myself and going like, "Hey, last night I heard you." It's just, and because it's hard for me not to come back, well, okay, well, I don't like when this, and this. And that's not the time to do it. It's A,
Right.
not the time to solve. It's B, I hear you. And instead of sorry, but what are you going to do differently? I think
Right.
those are kind of the biggest things.
Right.
Have you ever practiced an argument in the shower?
I practice argument all the time.
Yeah.
And, and
Same.
then I end up not having them because
Yeah.
I know where they're going to lead. And I'm like, okay.
So that's
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
good. I'm gonna.
I talk to
haven't-
myself all the time.
Yeah. Oh,
This is also a common thing,
Yeah,
which
this-
for men our
totally.
age, which
Mhm.
I'm having a bigger appreciation for.
I also wonder
and
if it's
feeling
an-
slightly
Speaking to
less
yourself?
nuts too.
is it like there's a healthy component and there's a psychotic component to it?
Yeah.
Especially if
Which one are you?
if someone catches you, like
Yeah.
my kid's like, Dad, my daughter's like, Dad, who are you talking?
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing it. That thing that you see people do.
And
and
I'll
you
tell
go,
my kids, who are you talking? I just, Dad is running his lines.
Yeah. You have a
Right.
great out.
Yeah, easy.
You mentioned something a couple minutes ago, Nick, about how the idea of how we were taught, how we grew up. And I heard this from my uncles and grandfathers a lot, like, happy wife, happy life. But then what I'd hear after that was like, just say yes. The secret is just nod and go along. And I remember, I've never been married, and I know that's rooted in my trauma of my parents separating when I was really young, dad having 36 marriages,
Yeah.
but I was aware enough to go, that doesn't sound right. Like, no one's always right.
Mm.
And you're just supposed to, and I know it's a generational thing, it's a throwaway. You just, that's the secret to a happy marriage.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Because I later found out in those marriages with my grandparents, who were two of my heroes, there was affairs and infidelity on both sides. And I was like, holy shit. And I found out from an aunt and from an uncle on mom's side and dad's side. And I was like, wait, what? All this preachy, happy. I'm like, but you were still sticking dirty dentist somewhere else when like you're telling me what to not do. Okay, cool. Maybe I just won't get married. Maybe I ultimately made the right decision for me.
Right.
Right.
But yeah, again, it's what works for each person.
Any advice you feel like you could give to younger men as it sort of pertains to some of the things we've been talking about?
I wonder sometimes, though. I don't, what they're thinking. When I hear like, they're all having less sex, and I'm wondering, what can I teach these guys? I don't know. Like, we're already. I don't even understand you.
Right.
But and maybe they know better than we did. The difficult part about it is, though, I think that men have to juggle a lot of things. There's an old saying that I'm going to butcher, but hard times, bring strong men, and weak times breed weak men. And like, we're kind of at a weak men kind of era, and there are things that we have to deal with. I think I just feel what I'm trying to say is that we're a bit of a, not hypocritical, but we're like two things that shouldn't be able to exist in the same thing. Almost like what we're being asked to do.
Right, like being adrift, but being like, why aren't you on shore yet? You're like, because I've been told to sort of be over here.
Or at least, being a protector, being, all of these other things, as well as the sensitive side and all
Right.
these things that people don't want to hear a man complain. They
No.
don't want to hear, it's like the SEALs, it's just do better. Who cares?
Yeah.
Do better.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of men feel that way too, of, well, when it really comes down to it, who really cares about what I'm suffering, what I'm going through right now? Just suck it up, and that's,
And that ties into
move
like
on.
things that, it's a whole other conversation, but things that women may not realize men need, what that looks like.
Well, it's those little things. And sometimes we tell them exactly what we want.
Sometimes we do. And sometimes they tell us and we're like, yeah, we're shoegazing. Yeah, let me get out of this argument. But, it ultimately does come back down to communication, what you and I talked about, like the willingness to at least have a conversation. If it can save our marriage, if it can make me a better dad, if it can unpack and maybe grant forgiveness for the mistake I made that hurt you, great. And drop the ego, drop the guard, drop the bullshit, drop what you even learned, unlearn it, because if it's not serving you and it's not going to help, so what if like that's how I grew up? Well, that's something we always heard. That's just the way I am. And I use that one in my 20s.
But that dichotomy between wanting to be more open, share what you're feeling, and women that want that from men, but then once you do, they also have to deal with the ick that they unintentionally feel from that, of like, oh, here's someone who's dealing with, like, that's the person I need to depend on. I need them to be strong for me, and they're telling me that they're having this hard time. They have to deal with their own distaste for the very thing they're asking for.
That's an amazing point. And I wonder if that's preventing guys from being open enough, because they're like, I don't know how this is going to be received by my partner, so I'm just going to, throw ice on it.
I was just thinking the great title for this episode is The Ick.
The Ick.
Because it's actually come
from Nick
the Ick Gonzalez.
If anyone knows about the Ick, it's our next
esteemed guest. Please welcome to the show, Ick. We like doing this thing with some guests. It's a 2 parts. Somebody earlier left a cool question, and then we'll ask you a question to leave for a future guest. What's something you're doing that's making the world a better place?
That's a good question. I mean, part of my impulse answer is knee-jerk is raising children who, realize that they have something to give back to the world, that they owe it maybe something, as opposed to it just owing them. but also I feel what my wife and I are trying to build, there's an environmental component with some things and some projects we're involved in right now that I really kind of feel like it's something we've just been really latched onto ever since we went through our infertility journey with, when having my son, and changed everything about how we ate, about how, we look at the environment. And now the systems that we support and all that are hoping to make it a better place. But, I don't know. That's kind of a vague answer for
No,
some
No.
plans that we have with
environmentally
businesses.
aware.
What's something you're doing?
Absolutely nothing. I'm doing this podcast.
This podcast.
It's going to hopefully, in theory, this leapt from the difficulty I have had in my relationships and communicating with my brother, with my family, feeling very adrift from them and losing loves and fucking up and having a lot of shame around that and not being able to say, I got it wrong, but I'm not afraid to get it right. So truthfully, yeah, I would say I'm raising my daughter in a very different way than I was raised, and I'm so happy about it. I'm doing the best I can, and I think it's showing. She's killing it in school right now in sports, and she's an amazing girl, amazing kid.
It's so funny. We laugh about it, like with my daughter, about like, I'll play like I'm gonna spank her, and I'm like, this is what used to happen to me.
Right.
And I'll play like,
Oh.
and she's like, ow, but I used to get spanked, like it's
Totally.
very different.
Yeah.
Well,
I talk to my
learning
kids
now.
about that as well, like the about getting
Corporal
hit.
punishment, yeah.
Oh
and
yeah,
like
we all.
that
I
was
don't
the
know about
thing.
we got hit, so I don't know if you
Yeah.
did, but we were spanked.
Yeah.
That would be my answer. And the truth is, I could do more, and I should. But for now, I'm going to focus on this podcast and hoping some people out there actually listen and watch it and incorporate.
And so, if you could leave a question for another
I want to know what
guest.
you're doing. Hold on, what are you doing?
Actually, I would echo something you said about raising your kids and how you're doing that, and like a simple thing that I try to have worked on is raising kids with manners, raising good kids. I think it's like, if you're gonna have them, like, do everything you can, because I tell them, I say, we have
such a good point.
I want to raise kids with good manners, because when you have good manners, it increases your likability. And if you are a likable person, you can be a successful person. So I try to impart wisdom now that my parents didn't really do, so that like they've got these nuggets and they just end up being ingrained in their head. Like, worrying is a waste of time, focus on the solutions, not the problem, like things like that, so that they can be better people for the world, to make the world a better place. That's my number one.
It's a good one.
Mm.
So then I'll repeat the question to make it clean. So what's one thing that you, Nick Gonzalez, would ask another guest who comes on the show?
I would think I don't want to leave them with this as their last question, but because I don't want it to be, but I'm always fascinated by, like, what was the time when you felt most like you had a hard lesson in life, like a hard, wow, that
That's
is what
great.
life is, and how you got past that. But when you really nakedly experience it in life, and it's just kind of raw form, with something that you weren't ready for, that kind of just maybe slapped you with sobriety. I'm always curious about that, and how we get past those points too, because a lot of us don't. And I think they're things that start to pull us down, or we maybe harp on, or we start telling ourselves a story that doesn't exist.
Right.
There's a lot out there, and I think we're all in our echo chambers silently screaming, but we're in these echo chambers, and we don't realize that everybody's not in the same one we're in.
Oh,
and
that's a whole episode
trying
right
to be
there.
understood, without talking.
Yeah.
So I think
Without talking, that's exactly right.
and I think that's why we want to do things like this, why we want to sit in a room and be able to talk, because I can send memes to you for the next, decade on social media, and read about your daughter and see what you're up to. But
you don't know
it's
what
not
I'm
real.
feeling or what
but
I'm
it's not
really.
the real, us really spending time.
That's right, and
That's
we
one of the sad
can.
things about now, I think.
That's a great point.
Yep.
It's a phrase I've used before, which I don't remember where I heard it. It wasn't my own words, but I loved it, so I borrowed it, and I keep borrowing it. It was like the human orchestration of connection is this. It's just dialogue. It's not being in the phone. It's not sending a text message. It's this.
Yep.
And the scary part is the other things with social media it can sometimes explain something, or you get something, the perfect meme in a way that is so right. And that's almost another one of the sinister things about it. Again, you feel like you're really sharing something, and it's kind of extraneous. It's not about something like we're communing and talking about and learning about each other or getting somewhere. It's filler. It's small talk, but that's all it is.
That's all it is.
You never get past it.
The depth, it's like the baby pool. I'm like, bitch, I want to get into the lake. little Aaron Paul reference to Breaking Bad. Yeah, bitch. Dude, this was great having you.
Thank you so much.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. I guess we can give you your balls back.
Thank you so much.
You can take them. Unless you want to leave them.
I only have one left, basically. The other one I had to leave at home. So.
Wait, you only brought one?
Ours are exposed.
We've been duped.
All day.
Thanks so much to our guests and our listeners for today's show, which was recorded at Mary Pickford Film Studios. This episode was produced by J.K. Da Silva. Ignacio Gonzalez sound engineered, and Spencer Rollins shot it. Dean Gonzalez edited and co-produced it. Special thanks and shout out to Joachim Horsley, Brandon Morgan, and Jason Brahms. Original music all done by Antonio Beliveau. That's Tony's fancy name. Make sure to follow and subscribe to Balls on the Table on your favorite podcast platform, and drop us a line at ballsonthetable.com. We'll be back soon to talk about all the things men need and what Tony and I want to talk about.